sapiential thought, wisdom thought, has always incorporated the poetic, has always incorporated imagination. And why is that? I think it's because it has to reach beyond the visible, yet through the visible and with the visible, and find something else. And it's an activity, imagination is, which opens something within us. It opens a capacity within us, which is a capacity also for the future. It's a capacity to create a future. Suppose the human being has the vocation and the responsibility to bring newness into the world. That is, to be a participant, an active participant in the new creation. Now, I'm speaking of that, when I say that, I'm speaking of it in context of the event of Christ, of which the emergence of human imagination would be one sign, one manifestation. And of course, imagination's been around long before Christianity was around, long before it was here. But there's a new liberation of the imagination that happens with the event of Christ. And where you see it is in the Western world largely. Not only because there's a lot of creativity in Eastern Christianity, but it's of a different kind, which is somehow not as dynamic. It tends to be more static, more traditional, and more dominated by the past than does the imagination of the West and the creativity of the West. But the imaginative part becomes more and more important as we go on in history, as we move forward in history. And then we realize that the imaginative part is a capacity for generating a future in some way, and that's the responsibility and the vocation, the gift of the human person, largely. If I mentioned before that the human person is endowed with the ability in the Holy Spirit to bring the new into the world, to bring forth newness, and to renew that which is already in the world. So you can say that the imagination somehow renews creation, renews nature, renews what is already here. It commences a new creation within the old creation and around the old creation. So the human person becomes a priest or a priestess of the new creation in some way through imagination. Of course, there are different kinds of imagination. Some of them could be rather perverse, or some of them can be very trivial. But there's a kind of imagination in which the human person becomes larger somehow, and everything becomes larger. Everything becomes larger as if it was being drawn closer to what it is meant to be and will ultimately be in the new creation. So somehow imagination has the ability, the capacity to be a participation in the new creation, which is a wonderful thing. And that's how Christianity and imagination unite, I think.